Our topic of discussion today is analytical methods of innovation management. So, just to put things in perspective, when you say analytical methods of innovation management, it actually boils down to strategy, it actually boils down to methods which give you concrete indicators of measurement and concrete action plans which can be put into practice. So now, if you quickly look through this gamut of photos here, you see there are 8 tools which are analytical tools which are used for innovation management. Let's start. FYI, this is your strategic triangle where you focus on customers, competitors, and corporation. I will connect it to the innovation angle shortly. I request you to bear with me. So many of these organizations, names who I'm sure you must have heard: Vodafone, Ambuja Cements, Big Bazaar, Santur, Montblanc, Nelco, have actually used the 3C model in a very successful manner. So when you say corporation, this means company or corporate based strategies. So they want to maximize the strength of the corporation. So what they do, there is a strategy called selectivity and sequencing. So Vodafone, if you remember, had the Chota recharge. You could recharge with 5 rupees, 7 rupees, 10 rupees. At the same time, you had Vodafone postpaid, you had Vodafone higher prepaid packages. They were able to sequence their entire market, select specific zones, and truly innovate by having these Chota recharge packs. Then there's another scenario called make or buy. There's this company called Nelco which decided to make a lot of its own components in-house using indigenous materials rather than buy from external suppliers. So by innovating in-house and making their own raw materials, they saved a lot of money. Ambuja Cements talks about cost effectiveness. I bring down my costs, which automatically helps drive up my profits. When you say customers, the corporation must look at segmenting customers very efficiently. This helps them develop a strategic edge. So, Montblanc is one such company which has segmented itself by objectives. You see, Montblanc is a pen which is extremely premium. So it is the way it's segmented is based on its premium nature. A Montblanc pen starts at an average of about 3,000 rupees, can go up to about a lakh of rupees plus. So what is so innovative about the Montblanc pen is it's not a affordable pen. It's a pen not for the masses but for the few select people. And the way they've innovated is it focuses on quality, focuses on extreme standards, extreme precision. So their innovation is based on the audience which they were trying to launch it to. Santur, I'm sure every one of us would have used it at some point of time. They segmented it based on the kinds of customers. So you had a small pack of Santur, you had a large pack of Santur, you had bundled offers with Santur soap as well as talcum powder. Very innovative because by bundling it, you are able to reach a much larger customer audience. Competition. So what happens is only if you innovate and differentiate between your competitors, you'll be able to sustain amidst heavy competition and you'll be able to be successful. So this is what Harley Davidson did. It leveraged the power of its image. You know, people riding on the wide open roads, the rebellious nature of the outlawish nature of people, and the Harley Davidson motorcycle was truly innovative. It was like no other thing which was done. Big Bazaar is really innovative because it looks at saving costs, reducing costs, and passing those savings on to its customers. Very innovative. But at the same time, I'm sure you're aware that Big Bazaar is a highly profitable brand. So there is a case study here of an organization called the Pratham NGO, which says we want to ensure every child is in school and learning well. So they came up with this program called the Read India program, which helped improve the reading and writing of children in the age group of 6 to 14. So you can see the 3C model for Pratham. The corporation is Pratham. The customers of Pratham are the people that promote the organization, the consuming public. The competitors of Pratham are other NGOs, other companies doing other CSR activities. So, what happens is, based on Mr. Ome's model, there is one Japanese win strategy which has been developed. You enter low end of the market, expand to medium and high ends, and you win the world. Or you focus based on certain groups, target them and market using social media, create mega events, and win over your competition. This was one such analytical model. We will go through a few other significant models in the subsequent slides. The next analytical innovation model is called the PESTEL analysis, or political, economical, social, technological. I will also add legal and environmental. This is where organizations look at all major external factors which influence its operation and thus make it more competitive in the marketplace. Simple tool and a very widely used tool which helps you analyze these 6 factors and develop the bigger picture. So this helps you look at what you're exposed to. This helps you find blank spaces or blank market spaces and helps you take advantage of many new market opportunities. So you can see I've done the pestle analysis of Coca-Cola, where the political factor, it says you need to provide people with the right beverages. You need to have the right labor laws, accounting should be taken care of, marketing laws must be followed. Economic factor, you need to understand consumers' tastes and preferences. So most of Coke's income still comes from selling the soft drinks. But today you have the Chota Coke available, you have the middle range 500 ml Coke, you have the 2 liter bottle Coke. But economic factor, it was important for Coke to start focusing on healthy drinks as well. So socially, what Coke did, it launched the Minute Maid and healthy drinks in the US, started doing it in other countries in most of Asia Pacific. Their technology, so they have good technology which helps producing fine products in a short span of time. Very effectively, they use social media for all their promotions. Legal factor, Coke has done really well. It secured all the rights of its business. Environment, must operate in an area where there is no shortage of water. So you see, these factors will help you thereby innovate and try bringing in more factors which are relevant to the markets in which you are operating. Second one is called the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This helps you analyze what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what threats you may face so that you can eliminate them or at least reduce them, and what opportunities where you can craft a unique strategy which distinguishes you from your competitors and helps you do really well in the marketplace. So you can see the SWOT for Amul here. Strengths, wide range of products, very affordable. The Amul utterly butterly delicious girl, all of us have seen it. Very strong brand image. But the weakness, it needed to focus on other products. The road transportation infrastructure is always a little weak in our country. The threats, population is growing by leaps and bounds. Requirements are increasing. Lot of adulteration. It's quite difficult to expand. Milk animal availability was reducing. But you see, they found some excellent opportunities. They started entering into the export segment. Amul made its entry into retail. Amul started coming into packaged sweets. Amul started making its own sports drink. Amul started having e-competency, electronic measurement methods for its supply chain. So you see, very well differentiated and extremely innovative in its target market. Gap analysis means where we are at this moment and where we want to be. So this is the actual performance and potential performance. The gap in between the two would help you to invariably innovate. So the gap analysis is thereby a tool which looks at the company's current state and its desired future state. This is based on time and sales metrics. Then we come to the five forces model by Michael Porter, which looks at new market players, substitute products, their threat, the power of customers, power of suppliers, and industry rivalry. So I have taken the Porter's five forces model for Apple. You can see rivalry among sellers is very high. Apple works in multiple industries. There's competition in the PC market from HP, Dell, Acer. From the smartphone market, it has competition from BlackBerry, from Nokia, from Samsung. Tablets, it was an outright leader, but today you have n number of companies coming out with their own tablets, which is giving it a lot of rivalry. Substitute products are very high. You have the Amazon Kindle Fire, Amazon Nook. You have substitutes in the form of phones, smartphones particularly, PCs, tablet computers. In the audio sector, apart from the Apple iPod, you have n number of music players today, MP3 players today. So many substitute products are there. But the biggest advantage, strategic advantage that Apple has, it has very few key suppliers. Right? Apple has a good amount of cash reserves in almost in the range of trillion of dollars, which helps it lock in suppliers and get a strategic advantage. Apple fanatics, the guys that stand for days on end in line, are giving bargaining power to Apple. But general buyers who aren't Apple fanatics are going to have high bargaining power. If I don't get an Apple iPad, I'll go ahead and buy a Samsung Galaxy Tab. It's as simple as that. There are threat of new entrants. So today, most cell phones are becoming as powerful as PCs and tablet computers. You have AIO, all-in-one PCs which are coming. So competitors are developing new products which match Apple. So threat of new entrants is very high. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the five forces model of Michael Porter. Then you have something called the BCG matrix, developed by an organization called the Boston Consulting Group. This is a corporate planning tool which looks at the portfolio of products or brands which a company has and evaluates it based on market growth rate and market share. So you have four quadrants here. One is the star, the question mark, the cash cow, and the dog. So if you look at the example of Coca-Cola India Limited, you see Maaza, you see Kinley, these are brands of Coke which are in the star level. Sprite and Fanta are question marks. So Coca-Cola in itself, Limca, these are cash cows. Minute Maid, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, etc. are dogs, meaning their market share is low, their market growth rate is low. So you have to understand your innovation is going to dictate where your brands lie. Higher is the innovation quotient, you have more stars and cash cows. If the innovation quotient begins to dip, you have more question marks and dogs. Product life cycle. So every product in existence today is going to be part of this particular dynamic. So I've taken the example of the product life cycle of Samsung. Let's say Samsung basic phones were introduced sometime back in 2001 till about 2006. 2006 till 11, it was in a growth stage where it bought in dual SIM phones, it bought in touchscreen phones. But today, the smartphone, the Galaxy series, the Galaxy S5, S6, S7, it's come up till S20 almost now. This is all in a state of maturity. So from this point onwards, if Samsung is not innovating, it's going to go into a state of decline. So when I say decline, as time goes by, the sales or profits will start to drop. Intro growth and maturity is where, as time goes by, the sales or profits are in a upward trajectory. The last tool here is called value chain analysis, which looks at support activities and primary activities. So when you say primary activities, it looks at inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, sales and marketing, and service. Let's understand something. Innovation is necessary in each one of these five blocks in front of you. Operations, you can develop a brand new operations model, innovate in your marketing and sales process, innovate in after sales service, delivery or installation services, innovate in logistics, develop new warehousing facilities like Amazon has done. So, in Amazon warehouses, there is a high degree of automation. It uses robots that scan rows upon rows of products and tell you whether inventory is there or not. So they have an automated process of inventory management. Then you have support activities. The firm's infrastructure, you can definitely innovate. I told you, management at whatever level can start developing an innovative mindset. Human resources, start to motivate people better, train people better in innovative techniques of management, start to automate. In technology, develop sales automation, develop integrated supply chains. Procurement, develop automation, immediate communication, and order procurement and fulfillment with your suppliers. Make material and supplies purchase an automated process which happens month on month without any break. So, granted, this is a slightly more complex topic than you would have dealt with at this point of time. But when we meet for our subsequent online session on the coming Tuesday, I will take just analytical methods of innovation management as a topic in itself and make it further more clearer to you with the help of a case study. So, with this, I call it a day. Thank you so much, and bye bye until we meet again.